growth only hurts so bad because of your perspective about it. If you make a really small change in your perspective, it could take all of the pain away.
Most people actually are focused on taking away their pain and suffering rather than actually embracing it. What if the growth journey actually sucks because you're expecting a short-term fix? And it's actually that mindset itself that makes it suck in the first place.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
As you guys heard in the intro, we're changing things up a little bit. We're making it a little spicy, as we love doing here. One of the biggest intentions that we have is making this show and making Evolve, the organization in and of itself, the absolute best it can be. And that's a huge part of our growth journey. And you guys, it's freaking brutal. Even us trying to do that new little intro was brutal. Me and Emilia are like pulling our hair out trying to figure out how to do this the absolute best that we can. And as you heard in that little introduction that we did, we're both coming here with the mindset and with the understanding that we know it's going to be difficult. This is a really, really big misconception that so many of us have when it comes to growth. We think it's not supposed to be hard. We think it's not supposed to suck as bad as it does. We think it's not supposed to be as challenging, as painful, as difficult as it is, especially because of all of the absolute bullshit we all see on social media with these influencers putting out these simple 1, 2, 3 tips and tricks that are not evidence-based by any stretch of the imagination. And they're basically just replicating what they see everybody else doing, which is also inaccurate. What if the actual truth, which is what we want to talk to all of you about here, and like we said in that intro, which we're embodying, is that it is gonna suck. But acknowledging and embracing the difficulty is what makes it not suck as bad. Interesting thought. Not easily applicable. What have you seen with clients? What have you seen help clients go through this? Because this is a conversation I have with every single one of my clients, where when they first do a session with me, I am straight up with them and I say, listen, my job is for us to have a really great relationship and for there to be as much transparency between the two of us as possible. And so I'm going to call this out here and now. This is going to be hard. You're going to want to quit multiple times. You're going to want to tell me to go F myself on the reg. And that means it's working. Every time I do that, they're like, honestly, thank you for telling me. And that kind of gives me a little bit of a level set, so I'm not surprised when it happens.
Right.
What have you seen work? That works for me. What have you seen work? And what have you seen that actually helps people to not feel as bogged down by the suck?
Yeah. You know what? It's so interesting because we have had quite a journey here ourselves, right? And so the growth journey, for anyone that's new, to that verbiage and or has heard it, but we have our own kind of tang to it. The growth journey at Evolve is any type of journey that you begin trekking that is after something, right? Or you're trying to achieve something, improve something, get better at something. And so obviously like that's, maybe getting back into therapy or getting back into coaching and or, your own multi-modality level of healing, recovery, spiritual, personal awareness, anything, professional awareness, team development, et cetera, right? You're improving something that currently sucks right now. What I've seen is, so many people expecting, because, they're in that pain. When we're in pain or when we're suffering, that's when I find most people reach out and extend themselves to try to find resources, because let's just be real, not a lot of us are super proactive. And if we are proactive, we don't really know where to search to try to help ease our pain and suffering. And so when we go into that searching process and we're starting therapy or we're starting coaching or we're getting back into it or whatnot, like I've seen so many people enter in with this mindset that has been so, from my perspective, so detrimental that it's going to be a quick fix, that there's just, a couple efforts that need to be put forward. And then all of a sudden things are going to go away. And when we really talk about the growth journey, these are systemic, really multi-causal root issues that people are witnessing. For example, someone's trauma might has, evolves over into really deep and pervasive interpersonal social dynamics that are now impacting every relationship that they have. And so when you try to go into that growth journey and you try to dip your toe into it, all you want is just this pain and suffering to stop. So that focus, that mindset that starts on just get it out, like get it away, and my suffering, ease my pain. That focus, what I find is one of the most detrimental thing, that if there's not a therapist like you or a coach that comes in and really level sets the expectation that like, this is going to suck. There's going to be very minimal times that are going to be funsies, right? This is, there's going to be moments where you want to quit. You just want to stop. You're not going to feel like you can go any further. If there's not someone that's level setting that expectation and really setting, that understanding, that mutual understanding, then people will just consistently jump on and off the growth train. And they don't realize how much momentum they're actually taking in terms of a hit to, their own personal growth, their own personal progress, their own personal healing and recovery from whatever it is that they're trying to work on. And so what I found to really work for clients and for community members and for people in general is partnering with that pain. Oftentimes we have this perception that pain is a bad thing, suffering is a bad thing. When we have someone that can really help level set that narrative, that pain is an indicator of where you can nurture yourself, where you can get help, where you can actually help yourself improve. And it's a signal that something's off. If you reframe what pain and suffering means, that is absolutely extraordinary. And that's what works for people, because when they want to quit, when they want to end, when they don't want to show up and they're uncomfortable, they're actually recognizing and priming themselves that, oh, this is a part of that growth journey. And it's in that discomfort, which is where all the glory comes.
I think we all conceptually know this, but so few of us feel capable of actually handling it, and that's why we're looking for the quick fix. Even think about fitness. I just started a cut, you just started a cut.
Uh-huh.
We both have full awareness that hunger feels like shit.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone listening to this podcast right now, we could say that to, and they're like, wait, what? It's gonna be hard? Nobody, like, everybody knows. We all know. But we're spending more time focusing on how can I make it not hurt as much, rather than how can I help myself be okay with how uncomfortable it is.
Facts.
That was something that I did in the past when I was doing weight loss cuts. It was like, how can I make this hurt less?
Yes.
What are the tips? What are the tools? What are the tricks that I can use to make it not hurt as bad? Right. Rather than, because that didn't work, because I would quit. The reason I did so many crash diets back in the day was because it didn't work. You can't.
You're using a narrative that will flop every time.
It's not even just the narrative. It's the narrative sets the tone, and then your actions are based on that narrative. If you have a narrative that I can find a way to make this not be as bad, and then you can't, you're just stuck with the pain. And then when you don't believe that you're capable of handling the pain, of course you're going to quit.
For sure.
So if you go into it instead, which is what you and I are doing currently, and I learned a lot of this from you, is just understand it is going to suck.
Yeah.
Don't fight it. Learn how to be okay with that level of discomfort. If you think of something like, I'm going to use a big word and then I'm going to shrink it a little bit, okay? There's this thing in CBT called systematic desensitization, okay? It's basically exposure therapy. It's another word for exposure therapy. You are gradually introducing a stimulus or an event or a person or a place or a thing or an idea to somebody, not to make it less fearful or less intimidating or less scary. That's actually the wrong approach. You're not supposed to make the person less afraid because it's not going to happen. If someone is terrified of snakes, like me, there's this running joke on the team about how I'm terrified of critters. I don't like bugs. I don't like insects. They scare the shit out of me. I'm a typical girl when it comes to that.
If so I were to try to into her place every now and then, and
Emilia, I'll fight you. I'll lose, but I'll die trying. If I were to try to do exposure to myself, it's not about making me less scared. It's about making me more brave.
Right. Love that.
You focus on gaining a skill rather than removing the fear. And what you learn over time is you will be less scared, but because you developed more bravery. And so when it comes to something like fitness, we're not coming into this with the mindset of how can I make this less painful? We're coming into it with the mindset of how can I develop the skills and the habits and the emotional regulation to tolerate it? Because if you can tolerate it better, you can handle anything. The same thing is with the growth journey. You're not going into growth saying, how can I make it suck less? You go into growth saying, how can I learn how to embrace this more? How can I get stronger? That's the mindset shift. That's the perspective shift. That's focusing on a growth mindset rather than the quick fix. How can I get better? It's not a quick fix. It's not a simple 1, 2, 3, but it's lasting. This is why so many people are stuck for years and years and years and years. And eventually in 20, 30 years, they then get to the point where it's like, oh shit, it didn't work. Okay, well, now I guess I have to go to therapy.
I guess I gotta go on the growth journey.
Right. Do it the real way.
Apprehensively, right.
Anyone who's trying to sell you a quick fix, they're trying to sell you something. Emilia and I aren't trying to sell you anything. We're trying to help you learn and become more evolved the way that we were and the way that we did it through the real foundational skills. And at the end of the day, that's what every single one of us are actually looking for. We're looking for real growth, real core competencies within us. The most confident people, the most competent people, the most high value people, which is the next episode that we're doing. It's not about these short-term things that they have that you don't.
Yeah.
It's an energy that they have about them, and you can only get that energy through skill, and you only get skill through time and effort and practice. If you focus on that, it's not going to suck as bad. You'll actually enjoy it. It'll be fun. Like this episode. This episode is fun. We were sitting there giggling and laughing and making fun of each other in a very playful and loving way, looking at these openers of like, oh my God, this is effing brutal. But we understand that. And that's meaningful to us. So how can you have that simple perspective shift and make that more meaningful for you?
The founder of I believe it's the woman who did the research, Carol Dweck, around the growth mindset, her and her colleague, they have a not as popular book that's far more based in the research around growth mindset. I want to kind of pull this forward here because the focus, what they really found in the research and the breakthroughs around the growth mindset, it is exactly about that, becoming better and getting better, right? And so becoming better at whatever it is that's focused on, more of the identity. And so that's really where a lot of people struggle, because that's where the limiting beliefs come in. The getting better is really focused on your skill acquisition component. And so the becoming more, right? Becoming more brave, becoming more X, becoming more Y, becoming more Z is building up those skills. Like, for example, distress tolerance. I just got off the phone with a client. We were talking about that, right? She has a lot of anxiety. And so it's not reducing that anxiety that we're focused in on. Although you could see the flip opposite side of the coin around distress tolerance, right? What is happening? The anxiety is coming because her body is experiencing distress, right? And so is she focused just on reduction, or is she able to have someone in her corner that actually says, hey, that's a very natural and normal experience of life. Anxiety is amazing. That's an indicator of where you can get better at a specific skill, like emotional regulation, like distress tolerance, like working on your executive functioning skill sets. And that reframe for her really helped her embrace the suck more and have it suck less in the equal opposite end of the coin. And it helps to open up horizons for people that I've found for the large majority of us, we've been conditioned to really just narrow in on the pain, and narrow in on the pain is a bad thing. And pain is not in and of itself bad. Pain with a fixed mindset can lead to horrible experiences. I know that, right? But pain with a growth mindset, that can lead to extraordinary results. So anyone that's joining this growth journey, it's going to suck. The way in which we can embrace that, the way in which we can become and get better, that's what we do at Evolve. And that's what so many people on this journey have done. And the more you stick on the train, and instead of focusing on how can I get off this train, how can I get off of this growth journey and move towards the next cart of the train and really focus in, okay, what is that next chapter of my evolution? That's where all the glory comes. So what if this growth journey actually sucks because you have been conditioned to expect a short-term fix? What if just by listening to this episode, you could get around two people who can help reframe your narrative and reframe your focus to getting better, to acquiring the skill sets necessary to actually becoming a better version of you? That's what we do at Evolve, day in and day out. That's what we love to do, and that's what we have fun doing. So it's just awesome. I mean, this growth journey does suck.
Royally.
And
every day.
One of the biggest hacks, I'll end here. One of the biggest hacks, quote unquote, is embracing the suck and also being able to do it with other people. And so if you weren't on this journey, right? Like, imagine how much worse it would be. It would be horrible. And so to have growth-minded friends, to have people who are on the growth train with you and embracing the suck and holding that suck with you and kind of laughing at the suck, laughing at our own inadequacies, our own insecurities, our own limiting beliefs, knowing full well that as a collective, as an Evolved community, we can embrace it and help use that as fuel. That's where it sucks less. That's where the reality actually does suck less, because we become more as a collective by embracing it.
Facts.
So in closing, my episode suggestion is 351, how to make friends with pain. Of course, I would put that one in there because that literally, when you see pain as a friend, ooh, hello, pain. I see you. What's going on, Gail? Tell me why you coming? What is your signal, right? It is actually so much more fun. So B, what is your episode suggestion?
You stole mine?
Did I?
Yeah. Yours was 347, why you need self-accountability.
I would put that. I would put both of those. That makes sense. I'm so sorry. Yeah, see? You can't win sometimes.
I'm gonna go cry myself in the bathroom after this.
Sorry, B. So what did you put that apparently I put?
350. Wait, what? 347, why you need self-accountability, and 351, how to make friends with pain.
I love it. Just messy action, friends.
Oh God. All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And we will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.